3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister encounters alone at night. Discover the cursed secrets Jessica had always felt in control. As a waitress at the 24-hour diner, the constant buzz of frying bacon and late-night chatter was a comfort, grounding her in her routine. At 37, she balanced her life deftly: work, bills, and parenting her responsible teenage daughter, Megan. But on one fateful night, everything went sideways. After a long closing shift, the moon hung low as Jessica drove home, her old sedan's headlights dancing across the row of suburban houses. It was a peaceful neighborhood, where neighbors waved from porches, exchanging polite smiles while keeping their doors tightly locked. But tonight, the tranquility felt deceptive. She glanced at her phone, spotting a text from Megan: "Mom, there's someone outside. I think I saw a shadow." Jessica scoffed, mentally rolling her eyes. Teenagers, right? Just another episode of teenage exaggeration. She flicked the kettle on and began brewing coffee, convinced she could handle any minor disturbance, but as the night deepened, a change slithered in. The warm kitchen lights seemed to beckon, while darkness clawed at the edges of her vision. A flicker next door caught her attention, something unreliable pulsed against the night. A chill crawled up her spine when she overheard rustling outside, crunching grass that shouldn't be there. She pushed it down, attributing it to the fatigue of her long shift, yet the unease snaked back. It was just her mind playing tricks, right? Surely nothing to fear, but then she spotted it: notes. Scrawled messages littered across the front porch, each sentence more disturbing than the last. They whispered of a local legend about a creature, a lurking shadow that preyed on lonely families, feeding on their fears. A cold sweat dripped down her spine as she absorbed the chilling ink, her bravado evaporating, heart hammering. She dashed upstairs, every creak of the floorboards seeming magnified. She knocked on Megan's door. "Hey, sweetie, you okay?" The only response was a shrill gasp from inside. Panic clutched at her throat. They needed to get out. As Jessica opened the door, darkness spilled into the hallway. Shadows twisted into grotesque shapes. A pang of dread clenched her heart as they tried to flee. However, the moment they cracked the front door, a palpable force seemed to shove them back. "It's just a trick of the light," she told Megan, but fear hung heavy in the air. Then, they saw him. Their neighbor, Mr. Thompson, once a trusted figure, now silhouetted in his window with a ghostly smile plastered across his face. The familiarity felt warped and sinister. Every bone in Jessica's body screamed to run, but curiosity pinned her in place. What if he was involved in this twisted game? "Jessica, Megan," he called softly, an unsettling comfort lacing his voice. "Are you scared? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Jessica's instincts twisted with every word he spoke, the way the darkness wrapped around them, impossibly close. It became clear this was no harmless neighbor. Here was a gatekeeper of secrets that intertwined their lives, tethered to a history steeped in shadows. His final whisper filled the night air with an ominous truth, each syllable a thread that threatened to unravel everything they held dear. Terrified, Jessica stood paralyzed. What did he know? As the final note slipped beneath the door, abandonment echoed, and dread wrapped around her family like a noose, leaving her with the paralyzing question: who was truly haunting them in their home? Adrenaline surged in Jessica as Mr. Thompson's voice slithered through the cracks of their fear. "Are you scared?" echoed like a sinister chant in the hollow of her mind. A moment hung thick with a suffocating tension, binding mother and daughter in a collective dread. Jessica's eyes darted to the window. The dark, neighborhood street felt alive, twisting under the miscolored glow of the streetlights. Shadows flickered waiting, watching. "Mom, we have to go," Megan trembled, her voice barely above a whisper. The fragile thread of courage that held Jessica upright frayed under the horror of their situation. Megan was right, they couldn't stay here another second. They needed to leave before whatever that thing was beyond their door took them. "Just hold on. Let me think," Jessica managed, but her mind was a storm of panic, visions spiraling of what might happen if they lingered. She glanced at the notes again. How could their seemingly peaceful neighbor harbor such darkness? More importantly, how many other families had come before them, trapped and lost in the web of shadows? A low moan drifted through the air, echoing from the depths of the house. Jessica quaked. It wasn't the wind, not anymore. It sounded human, strained, filled with despair. Instinctively, she backed away from the door, retreating into the safety of the dim hallway. The chill snaked up her spine again. They weren't alone. Thompson's silhouette shifted, melding seamlessly into the threatening night, revealing the sharp outlines of his features, eyes too wide, lips stretched in an unnatural grin. It was as if the darkness around him consumed his humanity, leaving behind only the cold essence of something primal. "Why are you scared?" he repeated, his voice now more a hiss, a beckoning call toward the darkness. "Mom, please!" Megan cried, her eyes wide, glistening with tears. Fear had stripped her of the bravado that held her together. They had to escape. Jessica moved to tug the door again, and that force met them, pushing back as if the very house itself was alive. Then came a rattling sound, a persistent scratching from the basement, drawing every fiber of her being to investigate. "What was that?" Jessica whispered, drawing Megan closer. Their hearts beat in sync, pounding relentlessly as though trying to drown out the growing noise. "Don't go down there," Megan pleaded, gripping her mother's arm tightly. But the whispers were enticing her, a siren's call mingling with the dread sitting on her chest. "Let's just check. Maybe it's." Jessica stopped, the words dying in her throat. What could it possibly be? She edged backward as a muffled scream ripped through the house, echoing from below, sending jolts of ice slithering into her veins. "Megan, we have to move." But the moment she reached for the doorknob again, Thompson's voice sliced through the night. "You really should come see. She's waiting for you just like the others." His words wrapped around Jessica like chains, dragging her deeper into a pit of horror. "Who's waiting?" she blurted, frantic, not expecting him to answer. But then he pointed, chin raised, toward the basement door, a gesture too simple, yet drenched in malice. Whispers became shouts in her mind, a barrage of warning. They resonated from her past, punctuated by every moment of regret and loss. She turned to Megan, terror leaped in her daughter's eyes, reflecting Jessica's bottled fear. Gathering her breath and determined to shield her daughter from the dark forces at play, Jessica gripped the knob tightly, resolved to open it one last time, but it twisted in her hand. A sudden snap echoed, the door swinging wide open beyond her control, revealing a swallowing abyss beneath the house, darkness simmering, dragging everything into an undefinable, tangible terror. As Jessica stood frozen, an icy wind gusted around them, chilling more than just their skin, leaving fingerprints of fear embedded in their bones. "Mom?" Megan's voice trembled, real and haunting, as both mother and daughter peered into the chasm of horror that awaited them. The world around them faded. And in that moment, a final question hung in the air: could they truly escape the darkness, or would they become victims of whatever haunted the depths below? As the door swung open with a deafening creak, darkness enveloped them, pulling at their sanity. A suffocating cold rushed up from the basement, curling around their legs like a living entity. Jessica's breath hitched, palpable fear settling in her throat. "Megan, stay close to me," she whispered, her voice quaking. The scraping noises intensified, like claws against wood, agonizingly persistent, demanding attention. Thompson leaned against the doorframe, a satisfied smirk twisting his mouth. "You'll regret not going down there," he taunted, a low chuckle reverberating through the hallway. Reality flickered, a disorienting haze threatening to consume them. Jessica's heart raced, thudding painfully against her ribs. "What are you?" she hissed, her voice barely audible above the chaos inside her head. "Just a friend," he replied, eyes glinting, hunger lurking just behind the surface. Megan squeezed her mother's hand. "Mom, please, let us leave. We can call for help." But every rational thought Megan suggested seemed to evaporate in the thick air, her voice fading into the abyss below. Suddenly, a scream pierced the unwavering darkness from deep within the basement. Jessica flinched, surprise and horror painted across her features. "We can't leave them, we can't just leave them." Her bravery faltered, doubt gnawing at her gut. "Megan, there's nothing down there," but Jessica hesitated, a chilling sense of what awaited below unraveling her words. The throaty groans rose again, mingling with low sobs, a symphony of sorrow that tugged at every maternal instinct. It could be someone. Someone who needs help. But at that moment, Thompson took a step forward, shadows spilling from beneath him. "You're far too late to save anyone, dear Jessica. They're all mine now." With a surge of desperation, fueled by her daughter's frightened gaze, Jessica ripped her eyes from Thompson and peered into the shadowy expanse of the basement. "No!" she gasped, pulling Megan close, shielding her with her frame. "I want to let you take us." Yet, a whisper curled through the air, soft as a breeze, desperate as a cry for help. "Please help us!" The plea sliced through Jessica's heart. A mother's instinct kicked in, a burning urge to protect, to save. Clenching her teeth, she tightened her grip on Megan. "If we go down there, we have to promise each other, no matter what happens, we stick together." Megan nodded, eyes wide with fear, glistening with uncertainty. They took a wavering step forward, feet compelled toward the abyss like moths to a flame. "Good choice." Thompson exhaled, a grin stretching unnaturally across his face as he faded into the shadows. The darkness yawned, daring them to step into its suffocating embrace. With quaking hands, Jessica took a breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Each step down the decaying staircase felt like a pulse through the very bones of the house, a heartbeat of dread. It echoed back, urging them further into the cold depths. As they descended, the air thickened, stinging their lungs. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them, wrapping tighter and tighter. "We've been waiting for you." Just as they reached the bottom, the light from above flickered like a dying ember, leaving them in a clammy chill. Shapes danced in the corners of the basement, indistinct but urgently real, moving just beyond their line of sight. "Megan!" Jessica clawed back her rising panic, forcing her voice to steady. "Stay right beside me." But as she turned, her heart dropped. The shadows weren't the only thing lurking in the dark. Shapes clawed their way forward from the depths, grotesque and anguished, faces twisted in a silent plea for liberation. A shriek ripped from Megan's lips, instinct pulling her mother closer. Jessica felt the suffocating weight of despair, the walls seemed to pulse, closing in like a tomb. In that moment, reality splintered. "You shouldn't have come here," whispered a dry voice, chillingly familiar. The basement door slammed shut above them. The darkness filled with terrified wails as the warmth of hope faded away. Could they truly escape, or would they become part of the haunting cries, a voiceless echo lost in the shadows? The basement was nothing like they had imagined. It was a pit of despair, an abyss that quaked with a life of its own. Jessica clutched Megan's hand tighter, her heart pounding like a war drum. Shadows loomed oppressive and thick, curling around the corners, twisting into shapes that seemed almost sentient. "Megan, listen," Jessica whispered urgently, trying to drown out the rising cacophony of cries and whispers. "If we see anything move, we run. No questions." Megan nodded, fear etched into her delicate features. The air vibrated with a heavy chill, igniting goosebumps along Jessica's arms. It felt as though the very walls knew they were trapped, closing tighter with each panicked breath. A figure stepped into a thin sliver of dim light that filtered from a cracked window. It was a girl pale, gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to plead for mercy. "Help me," she rasped, her voice barely above a whisper, a fragile sigh against the thunder of fear surrounding them. "Megan!" Jessica cried, nearly dragging her daughter back. "We can't trust her." But something pulled at Jessica, a profound sorrow swelling inside her heart. "Please," the girl's voice echoed through the darkness, weaving a rope of desperation that Jess felt against her chest. "I can't hold them back anymore." Jessica squinted, trying to decipher the shadows murmuring just beyond the flicker of light. They were watching, hungry mouths twisted in silent agony, eyes filled with torment. "Who are you?" Jessica challenged, fear hardening the edges of her voice. "I'm like you," the girl whispered, stepping closer. "I was taken and now they want you too." Megan whimpered, pulling on Jessica's sleeve. "Mom, we have to go." She's lying. Her voice trembled, each syllable punctuated by rising panic, but the girl raised a shaking hand, gesturing to the shadows lurking, shifting like smoke. "They feed on our fear. They'll tear you apart if you don't help us escape." I was too weak, and now her voice trailed off as dread washed over Jessica. A deep rumble echoed from the far corners of the basement, prowling and malignant. The shadows responded, slithering closer, their forms shifting and twitching. "They're here!" the girl screamed, her eyes wide with terror. Megan shrieked, clenching her mother's arm. "We need to run. Now!" Jessica spun, instinct taking over, moving to push back toward the staircase. But the door trembled with a force, a cold energy that rooted them in place. "Don't look!" shouted the girl, but it was too late. Jessica caught a glimpse of the dark figures behind her. Fanged and monstrous, they clawed through the thick air, their eyes aglow with predatory glee. Each step they took sent a tremor through the ground, shaking Jessica's resolve. The darkness chuckled, deep and resonant, echoing through the chambers of despair. "You cannot escape, you belong to us." In a moment of clarity amid the chaos, Jessica felt Megan trembling beside her. "No!" she screamed, forcing her will against the suffocating gloom. "We want to be yours." Tearing away from the shadows, she surged forward, driving toward the faint glow of freedom. But all at once, a shadow lunged, wrapping icy fingers around Megan's wrist. "Mom!" Megan cried, panic rising, pleading. Jessica's heart shattered, her breath choking in disbelief. "Megan!" She clawed backward, desperation fueling her, but the shadows pulled harder, dragging her daughter closer to the darkness. "Megan, hold on." But the shadows were relentless. The girl's face melted away, blending into the void, a victim, a warning. Terror twisted inside Jessica. She was losing her. In an instant, she realized the truth. Escaping wouldn't just mean fleeing the basement, it meant facing the depths of fear itself without leaving anything behind. "Mom, please." Jessica's scream ripped through the abyss, raw and primal. But as she lunged toward her daughter, the pull of the shadows tightened, preparing to reclaim what was theirs. Would she sacrifice herself to save Megan, or would they both fall into the despair of the dark? Time fractured. The basement trembled as the darkness surged forward, ready to consume everything in its wake. The echo of their screams hung in the air like a curse. And somewhere within that terror, Thompson's voice whispered once more, "You shouldn't have come here." Jessica felt the ground shift beneath her feet as she lunged, but the shadows ripped Megan from her grasp. The cries of her daughter echoed in the suffocating dark, a haunting melody that dug into Jessica's soul. "Megan!" she screamed, but the word felt thin and fragile, dissipating like mist. The girl had vanished, and Jessica was left alone, her heart hammering. She could see nothing but a swirling mass of darkness, the shadows dancing like monstrous puppets to a sinister tune. Panic twisted her stomach, but survival instincts ignited a fire within. "Megan!" she shouted, voice cracking as she fought through the pressure of the dark. The echo of her desperation mingled with a twisted laughter that crept closer, wrapping around her throat like a noose. She could almost feel its hot breath on her cheek. Heavy with anticipation, with trembling hands, she reached for the staircase, the promise of safety a flickering candle fighting against an approaching storm. But as her fingers grazed the cold metal railing, a sharp pain sliced through her wrist. She looked down to find dark fingers, shadowy and formless, grasping her. Jessica gasped, pulling back instinctively. "Let me go!" she cried. The shadows cackled in response, tightening their grip and dragging her feet back. A frigid chill clawed at her skin, an oppressive weight of despair threatening to drag her under. "Mom! Help!" The sound of Megan's voice pierced through the chaos, clarity cutting through the darkness like a knife. Jessica's heart raced again. She had to reach her. With a roar born from instinct, she threw herself against the suction of the shadows, forcing her way through. They shrieked, a sound that rattled her bones as if the very air held memories of sorrow and pain. Jessica stumbled forward, every ounce of fear and love propelling her. The frigid tendrils clawed at her helplessly, sliding off like water as she charged ahead. "Megan!" she cried out again, moving deeper into the obsidian black. Now, she could hear it, the faintest whisper of her daughter, echoing through the abyss. "Mom, please!" Desperation surged within Jessica, fueling her determination. She pushed forward blindly, feeling her way through the darkness, an unyielding force against the feeble grip of dread threatening to drown her. Then, she saw a flicker of light ahead. It danced like a beacon, promising hope. Without hesitation, she raced towards it, the shadows hissing in frustration, retreating from her unquenchable will. But just as she neared the bright spot, the light warped, distorting and morphing until it transformed into the dim outline of a doorway. "You shouldn't have come here," echoed Thompson's voice behind her, a taunt that sent chills spiraling up Jessica's spine. "Stay back!" she yelled, pounding her fists against the door. "I'm not afraid of you." She could feel the shadows coiling back, their hunger momentarily stilled as they hovered just outside the light. With a final push, she threw her weight against the door. It swung open, revealing a blinding expanse of white. And beyond, Megan stood, eyes widened with fear and hope. Something dark flickered over the threshold, an ominous shadow trying to break free. "Megan!" Jessica shouted, reaching for her as she surged into the blinding light, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. But the light flickered ominously, dimming as shadows clawed at the edges. The warmth began to slip away, tendrils of darkness smothering the glow. "No! We have to go!" Jessica urged, glancing back to see the shadows writhe, angry and desperate to reclaim what they believed belonged to them. "Mom, wait!" Megan cried, eyes darting back into the darkened corner of despair where they had just run from. "There's something there, something that wasn't human." The stark chill cut through Jessica like ice, as she hesitated at the threshold. Was there more than just the darkness? Had they missed something vital? And suddenly, the shadows surged forward, an avalanche of terror. They clawed at her legs, hungry to drag them back into the void. Without thinking, Jessica tucked Megan tighter against her, ready to force her way back into that light. But the shadows loomed, billowing and foaming like dark waves crashing against the shore. Would they slip back into the suffocating darkness? Was that the only fate awaiting them? Time ticked away, their world blurred as she felt the shadows gaining ground. And as the last echoes of Thompson's laughter resonated in the dark, Jessica knew they had a choice to make. But the price would be steep, more than either could fathom. Panic surged through Jessica as she stood torn between the beckoning light and the grasping shadows. The air was electric with dread. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet the weight of uncertainty held her back. What had Megan seen? What waited for them in the darkness? "Megan, stay close," she commanded, clutching her daughter tighter. They both trembled, eyeing the swirling shadows that darted like vipers, each flick of movement a promise of horror. Hey, are we going to be okay? Megan's voice quivered, barely louder than a whisper. It struck Jessica like a dagger. In that fear, she saw her daughter, the innocence fading like the light around them. Whatever's back there, I feel it's not right. Jessica hesitated, mind racing. Could there be more than darkness? An icy hand clutched at her heart. But she couldn't bury her fear. Not now. If we go back into the dark, we might never find the light again, Jessica said, not believing the words leaving her mouth. But if we stay, a chilling growl rumbled from the shadows, and both felt the air shift, heavy with a sinister promise. With a sudden surge of resolve, Jessica took a step forward. We need to move, now. Follow my lead. She pushed through the door, the light flickering in defiance of the encroaching darkness. But as they stepped into the luminous expanse, the ground quaked beneath them, and reality twisted. The once inviting brightness flickered, revealing their surroundings, and instead of an escape, they found themselves in an unfamiliar landscape. Gnarled trees surrounded them, silhouetted against a swirling gray sky, devoid of sun. What happened? Megan gasped. Where are we? A heavy dread settled in the pit of Jessica's stomach. All around her, shadows slithered, creeping up the trunks of the trees, their whispers weaving into a cacophony that pressed against her mind. It felt alive, and it was hungry. Stay close, Megan. Jessica ordered, scanning the terrifying landscape, her heart pounding in her ears. Time stretched like a taut string, and fear clawed at her psyche. The reality of their situation clawed at her. Mom! Megan's small voice broke through the encroaching panic, directing Jessica's gaze toward a clearing. There, amid the twisting trees, something stirred, a figure, draped in darkness, watching them. What is that? Megan trembled against her mother, eyes wide with sheer terror. Jessica squinted into the murky gloom. It was there, a hunched figure, a semblance of humanity twisted grotesquely in the shadows. An eerie grin stretched across its face, mouth too wide, eyes glimmering like dead coals. You came to play, it intoned, voice rasping like nails across glass. We need to go. Now! Jessica shouted, turning abruptly in the opposite direction. But as she started moving, the ground beneath them transformed, shifting between solid and liquid, sucking at their feet. Megan, run! In the chaos, they stumbled backward, falling to the ground as the shadows lunged forward, their whispers growing into frenzied screams, a chorus of lost souls beckoning for release. The darkness swirled, a living entity thirsty for their fear. Jessica scrambled to her feet, pulling Megan along. But with each step they took, shadows rose, blocking their path. The looming figure laughed, an empty sound that pressed against them. You can't escape what you've called upon, Jessica. You're already ours. Terror struck Jessica like a lightning bolt. What does it want? She thought, desperately searching for an exit. Mom, it's getting closer. Megan cried, terror-stricken. Jessica's heart raced. She pushed them both forward, knowing they had to find a way out or risk being swallowed forever. Yet, just as the darkness prepared to pounce, the figure raised an arm, stilling the shadows. You will remain unless you uncover the truth. What truth? Jessica shouted back, voice trembling but defiant. Then silence fell. Just a heavy, suffocating silence, where even the shadows held their breath. What truth? Megan echoed, fear mounting in her voice. The figure leaned ever closer, eyes glinting with malice, and uncertainty flooded Jessica's mind. They stood at the edge of a precipice, where the line between life and oblivion blurred. The shadows pulsated, and she knew if they didn't unravel the mystery behind this foreboding truth, they would be lost forever. But would knowing the truth spell their salvation or doom? Jessica clenched her jaw, pushing through fear, ready to take the gamble. What revelation awaited them? With the menacing figure looming ever closer, Jessica's grip tightened around Megan. We have to find out what it wants, but at what cost? As shadows thickened and the figure's laughter pierced the air, they took a step toward the unknown with danger lingering just behind them. What truth awaited them in the darkness? The silence stretched, wrapping around Jessica and Megan like a heavy shroud. The menacing figure loomed closer, shadows distorting its already grotesque form. Jessica felt her heart hammering in her chest, an insistent drum of terror urging them to flee. Yet, rooted in place, she forced herself to meet the dark figure's gaze. "Tell us," she demanded, her voice fierce against the rising panic. "What do you want?" The figure tilted its head, an unsettling gesture that sent chills racing down Jessica's spine. "You must know the truth is your salvation," it hissed, the words dripping with malice. "But knowledge has a price." "What kind of price?" Megan whimpered, her small frame trembling against Jessica's leg. "Everything you hold dear. Everything you fear." The creature grinned wider, its mouth stretching too far, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "You came seeking light, yet here in this realm the darkness binds you." Jessica had a moment of clarity. The shadows, their whispers, the figure, it all screamed of something more than mere fright. "Why us?" she breathed, the thought flaring in her mind. "Why this place?" The figure's laughter echoed, a sound that slashed through the air like a knife. "You wandered into the echoes of your own despair. Each choice you've made has led you here," it taunted. "This place feeds on fear, pain, and regret." Jessica felt the weight of those words settle on her, a cold realization dawning. She looked at Megan, whose innocent eyes reflected the nightmare unfolding around them. We can fight this," Jessica murmured, though her voice trembled. "We're stronger than our fears, right?" The figure stepped closer, allowing the shadows to envelop them like a thick fog. "Strength falters when faced with the truth of your failures," it crooned menacingly. "What will you sacrifice to break free of your own darkness?" With every word, tendrils of shadows slithered toward them, creeping up Megan's legs, icy and relentless. Jessica tugged at her daughter, but the ground seemed to shift beneath them, each attempt to escape met with more resistance. "Megan, I need you to be brave," Jessica cried, feeling the desperation claw at her throat. "We can't let this thing take us. We need to fight back." The figure's eyes sparked with a twisted delight. "Bravery is a fleeting shadow, child. When it falters, the truth will consume you and your little girl." "No!" Jessica shouted, rage boiling inside her. Her throat burned, and she thrust her arms forward, as if she could physically push back the nightmare approaching them. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned by her defiance. "Stay with me, Megan. Don't let go." She pulled her daughter tighter, the cold darkness brushing dangerously close. The figure seemed to hesitate, intrigued by the surge of defiance, its eyes narrowing as a steely resolve illuminated Jessica. And then, just as suddenly, the shadows surged back, claws of darkness gripping her mind and heart. Thoughts of loss, of regret, haunting memories surged to the forefront, twisting into anguish that threatened to drown her. "Megan!" she screamed, the edges of her vision blurring. "Tell me what we're going to do." But the girl's face twisted in confusion, fear gripping her little heart as she began to tremble. "I'm scared, Mom." Another wave of shadows crashed around them, smothering the air, the figure's laughter rising in the chaos. "This is only the beginning. The truth must unravel for you to find your way. Only then may light prevail." "No. We won't give in." Jessica fought back, determination blossoming amid desperation. She rallied her strength. "Megan, listen. We have to find that truth." But as they plunged deeper into the swirling shadows, something dark and ancient awakened, a presence watching, waiting. They were caught in a game where the stakes were high, and losing meant losing everything. "Speak your truth, Jessica," the figure cackled, "and see if it holds power, or if it only leads to despair's embrace." With each moment, with the shadows pulling tighter, the choice loomed before Jessica. Unravel the truth even if it threatened all. She loved or surrendered to the encroaching darkness that taunted them both. The monstrous figure loomed, edges sharpening in the dark. What will you choose? As the choice hung heavy in the air, Jessica grasped Megan's hand tighter. The disturbing question echoed against the darkening backdrop, each word pressing against her mind like a hammer against glass. Would their fight against darkness cost more than they were willing to pay? In that harrowing moment, fraught with uncertainty, Jessica knew they were racing against time and the abyss was closing in. What dark echoes of truth awaited them if they dared to confront their past? Jessica's resolve was tested as the figure leaned in closer, its breath a foul gust that made her stomach churn. You already know the truth, don't you? It taunted, as shadows forked around her, whispering secrets of fear that gnawed at her sanity. You have buried it deep, hoping not to feel the weight of your own choices. Megan's trembling grew, her small fingers slipping from Jessica's grip as the darkness pressed down, thickening like smoke. Mom, please, I can't breathe. The little girl's eyes were wide with terror, reflecting the monstrous eyes of the figure. Hold on tight. Jessica cried, panic slicing through her. She yanked Megan back toward her, but the tendrils of shadow wrapped around her child's legs, pulling Megan deeper into the darkness. Desperation clawed at Jessica's heart. She couldn't lose her. You think your love will save you? The figure sneered. Love can blind you, can make you weak. No. Love makes us strong. Jessica shouted, flinging the words at the figure like a weapon. In that moment, a flicker of light broke through the shadows, illuminating the space between them. Jessica felt the warmth wash over her, energizing her defiance. You don't understand, you can't have us. The figure paused, its expression faltering as if her words had struck a nerve. But the truth is like a shard of glass, it cuts deep, it lacerates. What are you willing to expose to save your sweet child? Jessica breathed through the pain that tightened her chest, grappling with memories bubbling to the surface, her failures, her regrets, the dark night when she lost everything in a reckless moment. Sorrow flooded through her like poison. In a heartbeat, the weight of the past pressed against her throat. Bastard! She screamed, squaring her shoulders as shadows roiled around her. You don't get to control us. I won't let you. Bravery will lead to ruin, the figure warned, advancing with a flourish. And the truth always comes with a sacrifice. What do you fear losing the most? Jessica felt the shadows shift, coiling around her heart, deep-seated fears rising like smoke. You think I fear losing my past? She shouted defiantly. I've faced my demons. I choose to protect Megan. The moment those words left her lips, the ground trembled. A shudder of energy surged through the air, jolting up her spine. The figure recoiled, a snarl twisting its grotesque features. You think you're strong? You're only delaying the inevitable. Darkness swirled violently, as if the air itself was breathing in jagged breaths, alive with malice. The shadows clawed at their skin, icy tendrils tormenting them. Jessica felt her strength waning, tears blurring her vision. She could see the shadows pulling Megan, the innocent light of her daughter dimming in the encroaching darkness. Megan! Despair ignited in Jessica's gut. She lunged desperately, grasping for something, anything that could cut through the suffocating fog. Look within. The figure howled, its voice reverberating through the churning shadows. Only by embracing your truth can you hope to rescue her. Face the fear. Tell it your name. Barely able to think, Jessica searched her heart for the words. Her truth was buried beneath years of pain, but she had to fight for Megan. I am Jessica. She shouted, her voice piercing through the dark. I am flawed. I am broken. But I choose love. I choose to fight for her. The shadows screamed, an indecipherable cacophony of sound, as if her declaration had struck the darkness like a lightning bolt. They recoiled, but the figure lurched forward, its eyes blazing. You think that will be enough? Unyielding rage surged through Jessica, and she shouted back, I will not turn away from my past. I will face it for my daughter. Suddenly, the shadows began to twist violently. The air crackled with energy, merging darkness with the light of Jessica's conviction. In that blinding moment, something shattered the very foundation of the darkness unraveling, but amid the chaos, Jessica sensed a deeper horror awakening. Whispers clawed at her sanity. What if your truth is the darkness itself? They asked, chilling the blood in her veins. Megan's voice pierced through the noise, small but strong. Mom, don't give up. I believe in you. The figure shrieked as the shadows cracked, revealing slivers of light frightening yet hopeful. As the chaos swirled around them, Jessica realized she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. They would either find a way through this together or be consumed entirely, but just then, deep within the shadows, a new presence stirred, ominous and terrible. Something ancient, something more powerful than the figure who had tormented them. Do you truly understand what you've awakened? It echoed, promising doom. The question hung heavy in the air, like a lead weight, as darkness coiled around them tighter still. What other truths awaited them in this terrifying abyss? In the heart of the chaos, Jessica's mind raced. The air pulsed with raw, electric energy, wrapping around her like a vice. She clutched Megan's arm tighter, her body a barricade against the creeping shadows. We can't let it break us. She yelled, pushing against the dark, unyielding force that seemed to breathe like a living nightmare, but the deeper horror stirred again, a wave of dread crashing over her like a chill tide. Each breath was a grapple with despair, memories threatening to drag her under her choices, her past mistakes. Face it. The taunts of the figure cut through the air, sharp and acrid. Embrace the burden of your truth. Hot tears spilled down Jessica's cheeks, overwhelming her as she fought the screams trying to erupt from deep within. She had to dig through the bitterness that churned inside her, to find the strength beneath the wreckage that shadowed her heart. You are not my truth. She cried, willing her voice not to shake. But shadows roared in response, dark tendrils coiling around her. They whispered lies, each word a reminder of grief and guilt, an echo of failure that squeezed her thoughts. The air thickened. Jessica felt a weight bearing down, suffocating, and she struggled to stand. Megan! She shouted. Look at me. Focus on my voice. Her daughter's gaze was glassy, entranced by the swirling darkness. Mom, it hurts. Megan cried, small hands reaching for Jessica, searching for salvation. Despair knotted in Jessica's chest, twisting painfully. Remember, sweetheart. The light. Think of the times we laughed, the warmth of love. Hold on to that. As the tendrils of darkness tightened, Jessica summoned every joyful memory, blasting them into the void. Images of laughter, of sunny days spent in bliss, engulfed her mind. For a heartbeat, she felt the warmth of hope flicker at the edges, but even as the shadows recoiled, the ancient presence shifted, an unsettling chuckle reverberating through the chaos. Oh, how naive. Your love is but a flicker against the tidal wave of your regret. Each word was a knife, slicing through the clarity she desperately sought. Jessica was drowning in a well of her own sorrow, and she felt her resolve destabilizing, trembling under the weight of the figure's taunts. Tell it your name. Face what you fear. Echoed the violent phantom. Fear gripped her throat, and Jessica forced the words out, I am afraid. The moment hung heavy, a suffocating silence sweeping through like fog. The shadows stirred around her, waning just slightly. She felt Megan's clasp on her arm tighten. Suddenly, the shadows whipped back with violent force, a storm unleashed. What is it you truly fear, Jessica? The figure growled, its voice wrapping around her like a belt, squeezing tighter. Jessica found herself gripped by an alarming thought. What if I lose Megan to the darkness? That fear flared like a flare gun in the pitch-black night. The shadows hissed, feeding on her anxiety. What if the truth is, you are not enough? You can't save her. In that moment, Jessica felt the void rise in her chest, harsh and mocking. It wanted her to crumble, to shatter into pieces. She refused to submit. She let the fear wash over her, accepting it. "I am afraid, but I will fight," she vowed. The surge of defiance morphed the air. Megan's face shone with fierce light, as their bond lit a path through the darkness. "I believe in you, Mom. I know you can do this." But as their voices combined, a new wave of shadows lashed out, an overwhelming reaction to their resolve. The dark figure shrieked, and with a sound that vibrated through her bones, the shadows erupted in fury. What lay ahead absorbed Jessica's consciousness, an abyss of fears unfolding and morphing before them. The war was far from over. And then a haunting whisper wound through the storm, "What other truths have you buried?" Just as hope flickered, illuminating their way, the darkness threatened to swallow it whole, creeping slowly back, as if for the final strike. Jessica met the figure's unblinking stare, her heart thundering. Was the truth she feared worse than the monster before them? The questions echoed, festering shadows offering no answers, just more uncertainty. What would it take to defeat this darkness? As the chaos swirled around them, Jessica's pulse quickened. The shadows writhed, hungry and relentless. The taunting figure standing before her, its razor-sharp grin deepening, seemed more like a butcher than a truth-teller. "What will you sacrifice to break free of your own darkness?" It crooned, each word dripping with malice. Deep in her heart, Jessica felt the core of her fears, the weight of regret, the ache of failure, the relentless conviction that she could never protect Megan from the horrors around them. She had battled with these shadows her entire life, running from grief and despair, but now, they cornered her, growing denser, suffocating her spirit. "Megan!" she called, grounding herself in her daughter's presence. The way Megan clung to her, knees shaking, seemed to fuel her strength. "Mom, it's all around us," Megan whimpered. "I can feel it too." Jessica understood now. The darkness lived in their fear, every thread pulling at their hearts, trying to separate them. "I won't let it take you." She surged forward fiercely, forcing the shadows to recoil. "You are not my truth." With raw determination coursing through her veins, Jessica reached deep, drawing on the love she had nurtured for years. Memories flooded her mind, nights of laughter over shared stories, whispered dreams tucked in blanket forts, the glow of pride when Megan accomplished something new. "Megan, remember the light. It's in our love," she urged, her voice steady despite the horror clawing at her. "Hold on to it tightly." As she spoke, the shadows faltered, their grip loosening for the first time. Each phrase ignited the air with warmth, pushing back against the cold tendrils that sought to consume them. "Let us face it together," she shouted, and in that moment, she sacrificed her fear. "I fear losing you, Megan. I fear being too weak to save you," she admitted, her voice cracking under the weight of honesty. "But I won't let that fear control me." The figure lunged, furious swirls of darkness careening toward them, but Jessica stepped forward, confronting it unflinchingly. "You don't own us. Our love is stronger than your fear." As her words erupted, the shadows shrank, twisting and spiraling away, unable to bear the intensity of her declaration. Jessica and Megan stood resolute, their hands integrated, a beacon in the storm of despair. The figure recoiled, eyeing them with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "What power lies in your bond?" it hissed, frustration growing in its unsettling grin. "I am Jessica, and together with my daughter, we are unbreakable," she declared, her voice ringing like a clarion call. In that moment, the surrounding shadows flickered erratically, trying to regain control, but it was too late. Jessica's power surged, fueled by the truth of her love. The shadows wailed, their cries reverberating like 1,000 thunderclaps, retreating into the very depths they had crawled from. "Now! Let us go!" Jessica shouted, tugging Megan along as a wave of light erupted around them, sharp, radiant, expansive. The darkness howled behind them, a cacophony of terror that threatened once again to devour them whole. But Jessica and Megan surged forward, escaping the vile grasp of shadows. Propelled into that blinding light, they burst through the doorway, sprawling into the warmth of their dim kitchen, the air fresh and familiar. Jessica's breath came quick. They had faced the unimaginable, teetering on the edge of oblivion and come out alive. Megan, panting and awestruck, glanced around wide-eyed, then slowly turned to her mother. Did we really beat it?" With tears streaming down her face, Jessica knelt down, enveloping Megan in her arms. "We did it together. We faced our fears and didn't let the darkness consume us." They clung to one another, the weight of their shared experience kindling a bright hope fueled by love. "Mom, I was so scared," Megan whispered, breaking through the fragile silence. "What if it comes back?" Shaking her head, Jessica pressed her forehead against her daughter's. "Then we fight again. Together. Forging ahead, caring for each other, refusing to back down from our truths and the love we share." As Jessica looked into Megan's eyes, she felt liberated. The defeat of darkness left scars but also illumination. They had uncovered the strength they never knew they possessed. Just as resilience flourishes after a storm, they would thrive in the aftermath of their encounter. In their quiet suburban block, under the pale moonlight, peace cloaked them like a soft blanket. Together, they had survived, potentially richer for the scars left behind and confident they could face what came next, one radiant day at a time. And as their laughter began to fill the havens of their home again, it echoed through the night, intertwining with the remnants of shadows, shimmering brightly, a testament against despair, bound by love. Now, before you go, there's something absolutely crucial we need to talk about. If you want to be a part of this growing community, you need to subscribe now. Hit that red button to ensure you don't miss out on our next spine-chilling stories that stir your heart and soul. If you enjoyed this tale, smash that like button right now to help us keep this channel alive and thriving. We need your support. Seriously, it makes a difference. And don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Jessica and Megan's fierce battle. What did you think? Did you expect the ending? Finally, right now, take a moment to share this video with at least 5 friends who crave thrilling tales just like this. Don't wait even one more second, spread the word and let us keep this community strong.